नमस्कार, स्वागत है आपका राज्यसभा टीवी में। मैं हूं आपके साथ अमृता चौरसिया। उपराष्ट्रपति और राज्यसभा के सभापति एम वेंकैया नायडू इंडियन एसोसिएशन ऑफ पार्लियामेंटेरियंस ऑन पॉपुलेशन एंड डेवलपमेंट के कार्यक्रम में शिरकत कर रहे हैं। आइए सीधा रुख करते हैं।
Organization headed by different dignitaries, initially by Professor Ramlal Parekh, Gandhian, very close associate of the then Prime Minister Morarji Bhai. After that, Mr. Satpal Mittal, MP, took over, and then again and again, all very important member of parliament, they headed this organization. And now, under the leadership of Professor P.J. Kurian, we are organizing sensitization, mobilization, workshop at the grassroots level, parliament to panchayat level on the different issues. That is population, women empowerment, girl, child, all others. Sir, I'm very happy to say here that this association, after the debacle of population family welfare program, this was the initiative of Honorable late Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji. When the government was not in power, in all party meeting, he said, this program is good and the political involvement is very necessary. So in that meeting, he very much encouraged to form this association, which was a result of, again, the United Nations meeting in Sri Lanka, Colombo, where it was decided that India example, taking Indian example, where the debacle of program happened. So there should be a voluntary parliamentary organization in all South Asian countries. So this happened at that time. And then we were encouraged by our Bhairav Singh Shekhawat Sahab as a chief minister, as a vice president, used to call us, wanted to know every time what is happening. So we very closely, apart from them, other member of parliaments and other dignitaries, they encourage us to do. So we are doing, sir, research work, and with the, as I told earlier, Professor P.J. Kurian is guiding us on this issue. And under your patronage, under your guidance, we will do more work on this. I will now request Dr. Talwar to please say a brief word.
Honorable Vice President, sir, the topic of my presentation here is status of sex ratio at birth in India. Sex ratio is an indicator to measure the balance or imbalance in males and females in population. The nature, the biology has really built some gender balance in the population, from birth right up to the death. And that is, and in these days, unfortunately, India and many other countries are seeing much less females than males than what is expected in a biological sense, biological nature. Biologically, we expect 105 boys to be born per 100 female babies. But it is not happening. And of course, this imbalance can create many social issues, many problems in our stable living. And that is why this has become a very crucial issue to see how much imbalance we have, and are we really covering so that we come to the balance, the nature's balance in our male and female ratio in the country. And this study is trying to see where we are today and where also a trend, not only today's level, but what has been in the last 15 years. Are we improving the sex ratio? Are we improving more females than as we expect than males? And this paper tries to look at it. This paper has really two sections. One is the source of data, because ultimately results depend on what data we use. And there are 4 sources of data. I have tried to see which is the best optimum, the most robust data that has been used to compute the sex ratio at birth. And that is what we have computed here to see for all the administrative units, states, union territories, and of course northeastern states particularly, because they have their own unique flavor. So what we see is that today the sex ratio in India is about 109 males for every 100 females, while the nature says it should be 105 per 100 females. So I think we are having many more males than females. And why it's happening? Of course, the son preference we know, and many times many families think female baby is a liability, and they try to control or try to have more male babies than females. And that is why we are really stuck with a much more males than females. It has implications. We have read in newspaper this implications long term. Only 3 states, Chhattisgarh, Goa and Kerala. These are the 3 states and 5 northeastern states and 5 union territories. There the sex ratio is in balance. We expect 105 males babies for 100 females. Only these 13 states. But in all other states we have somewhere the gap is much larger, somewhere the gap is much smaller. And the worst states in terms of sex ratio are Bihar, Gujarat, Haryana, Maharashtra, Punjab, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and India also falls in that worst category, because after a large number of states fall in this category. Northeastern states, only Manipur is the state which has a very poor sex ratio. And for union territories, of course, Chandigarh and Delhi, which are affected by Haryana and Punjab. So they are really the worst in terms of the levels. Now, seeing the trend over time, I think some states are improving the gap, they are lessening the gap, narrowing the gap. Some states have remained unchanged, and some states have really, again, shown the gap is increasing, widening gap. India, unfortunately, has not seen any change in the last 15 years. Some states have improved, some have deteriorated. So they have really balanced out. So India, unfortunately, has no trend, has not seen changing trend. But the states which were very poor, like Bihar, Gujarat, poor in terms of gap and sex ratio, where imbalance was very high. Bihar, Gujarat, Haryana, Himachal, Jharkhand, they all states are improving, but at very gradual pace. Similarly, union territories are also, some of them are improving. The states which are worst these days which are really, gap is widening, Odisha and Tamil Nadu. These are the 2 states, northeastern states, Manipur, Nagaland and Tripura. And of course, union territory, Puducherry is showing the gap is widening. So this is roughly the situation today. We hope this study will repeat after 5 years or so to see that whether we are really towards the better goal. We are narrowing the gap which we should, and that is what the situation is today. Thank you very much for the opportunity given to me. Dr. Nangia, can you please? Thank you.
Honorable President, sir, Vice President, sir, the study on elderly population in India, status and support system, was undertaken under the aegis of the IAPPD with the objective to study the demographic and socio-economic profile of the population 60 plus in India, to analyze the concerns of the parliamentarians on the issues of aging, and to review policies, programs, and the measures which are taken by the Government of India to address the problems and concerns of the senior citizens. This is a group study, and it was carried on last year and part of this year. So all the data is there in the text itself, but since the time is short, I'll just give a few highlights of the study which we have conducted. One, we feel that there is a substantial number of people above the age of 60 years in our country. As per 2011 census, we had 103.8 million, forming 8.6% of the total population. And in 2050, the estimates are that the population is going to be 318 million, and it will constitute 20% of the population, almost as much as the number of people would be as we were at the time of independence of this country. The sex ratio, surprisingly, is more in favor of female. So in this age group, we have 1,033 female per 1,000 population. That really shows that women outnumber men in this age group, but it also poses several challenges for us because most of the women are dependent. At least 80% of the women are dependent, and 50% of the women are single, either widowed, divorced, or separated, or destitutes. In case of male, it's 25 to 30% of the male who are single, elderly. So all these single people, they pose greater challenges for us. If we look at the educational level, this particular age group, as per 2011 census, has very little literacy. 25% of female and 56% of the male are literates. But this situation is not going to continue in future. Looking at the higher level of education, skill development of our middle-aged group people and the lower middle-aged group people who in 2050 are going to enter this age group. So if we look at the average length of life of the people at age 80, it's almost 20 years. 17 years for male and 19 years for female. So these are the 20 potential years which one has to take care of. As per several studies which have been undertaken, it appears that the best productive years of one's life are 60 to 80 years. 60 to 70, 70 to 80. And the third, of course, is 50 to 60 years. Now, in this particular age group, if we look at the population above the age of 80 years, we have 1.2%. Now, this is the population which really tends to become largely dependent, more dependent compared to the earlier ages. Now, then we were looking at the needs of the elderly population. They are financial security, physical security, social security, health care, and their urge for leading an active and productive life so long as they are physically fit. So we looked at the concerns of our members of parliament as to what type of questions, based on the questions which they asked during Lok Sabha and Raj Sabha sessions. We looked at the questions raised during the period 2009 to 2019, and we found that the issues around which the questions were raised, they catered to policies and programs of the Government of India, social security of the elders, especially food and shelter, economic security, largely pension benefits to the older population, old age homes, especially for the destitutes, health care and rehabilitation, and a few more topics. But all the same, the topics were highly limited and they did not cover all the states. Only a few states' representatives showed interest as to what was happening in their own constituencies. So we looked at the policies and programs. We had a comprehensive list of the programs, and the latest one is the Integrated Program for Senior Citizens 2018. So based on all this, there are several recommendations, but I'll just name a few, 2 or 3 here. First is that policies and programs should have a comprehensive reach to cover all the states, union territories, and all the concerned citizens. We should have well-managed senior citizens' homes with continuous monitoring of quality of services. We should sensitize the media, the kith and kin, the neighbors, the NGOs, the field level workers, the police, and the bureaucracy to create awareness in them to the needs of the elderly and to ensure that the benefits of the programs reach everybody. Sir, last but not the least, we urge the elected representatives at all hierarchical levels that they should be effective in spreading awareness to the issues of the elderly and ensuring quality services in the facilities created for the senior citizens in their local areas and constituencies. Sir, with this, I request you to please release both the reports which we have prepared. Thank you.
Professor P.J. Kurian, I think is joining us online. Sri Manmohan Sharma ji, Secretary, Professor Sudesh Nangia, Dr. Prem Talwar, other members of Parliament, sisters and brothers who are watching this program online. I'm very happy and delighted to release the two reports of Indian Association of Parliamentarians for Population and Development, IAPPD, Status of Sex Ratio at Birth in India, that speaks of the imbalance in the number of females and males in the population. Elderly population in India, status and support systems. These are the two topics, highlighting the issues concerning the elderly population of the country. And they made some useful recommendations. Both are very important topics. I compliment the members of Parliament and also this association for taking up these two very important issues, both vulnerable in nature that way, and making a good study, and then coming out with these two reports along with their recommendation and all. These two reports cover very, very important social issues being faced by the country today. Let me congratulate the organization and also Professor Kurian and others who are all involved in the presentation, discussion and presentation of this report. Dr. Talwar and Dr. Sudesh Nangia and Dr. J.S. Yadav, they have put a tremendous effort to complete this detailed study within a short period. My dear brothers and sisters, globally, the number of people above the age of 60 years is on the rise. Countries like Japan, Russia, Germany, UK, and USA have a population that are aging fast, indicating that the world has several challenges related to the aging population. Of course, in India, we have a demographic dividend. We have good amount of young population. It's a matter of satisfaction that the life expectancy in India has gone up substantially during the past 5 decades. This has led to an increase in the proportion of the elderly population. Our elderly population is likely to be more than 300 million in 2050. Just now it was explained. That means it will be around 20% of our population. That is 1/5. We must ensure that our elderly remain healthy, socially engaged, financially secure, and productive. They should be engaged, they should be financially secure, and they should be productive. Because with the knowledge that they have acquired over the years of their life, they will be able to give it back to the society if they are socially engaged and if they are utilized in a proper manner, not only by the family, by the society, by the leadership of the country and the state. I feel extremely distressed when I come across reports of neglect, abandonment, or abuse of elderly. My friends, encouraged by me, they are running a NGO by name Swarna Bharat. They are doing a lot of activities, free medical service, education, vocational courses, focus is more on skill development for women. One day my daughter also is one among them, active. So she came to me and she said, we have taken up 17 activities. Now we want to set up a home for aged. I was not initially positive. I told her we should not encourage this system. She was a little surprised. She thought I am going to appreciate her and encourage her and all. I said, in India, our family system is such that families take care of the elders till the end. That is the duty, sacred duty of the family members' children to take care of their elders. This is how we were brought up. We never heard old age homes, homes for the aged, parents living in some place, children living in some other places and all. But because of social, economic, developmental changes, a lot of changes have come, and then these old ages have become, homes have become a reality. So I told my daughter, do one thing, if you are all keen, do it, but don't admit anybody whose children are there in the same town. They are somewhere outside the state or working abroad, okay, give preference to only such people. Second, I said, name this as an elderly home. Don't call it as home for the aged. Then I told her, you will also become elderly one day. You know that in Telugu, I don't know what it is called in Hindi. Hindi also must be same. Vruddha ashram. Vruddha. Vruddha means, meaning he's almost retired, he has become this thing. I said, don't do it. Call it as Peddala Ashramam. Peddala means elders' home. So they are continuing it for, I think, more than 12 to 13 years. The family system in India is greatly appreciated across the globe, because we feel it's our sacred duty to take care of our elders, and then we get enlightened. I can tell you, because I lost my mother at a very young age of 13, 14 months. The knowledge I acquired is because of my grandmother and my grandfather. The, what you call prapanchika parijnanam, that the common sense of the society, of the world, that was given to me initially by my grandparents. That is missing today. And that is the reason for nowadays tension, stress, disillusionment, disappointment, and now they are talking, added new word, depression. Depression is because of separation also. And now, during this pandemic, lot of people are spending some time with their grandparents. Elders are also spending some time with the children. That's one positive side of this pandemic. It pains me greatly to note that such incidents, which are reported in newspapers about abandonment or neglect or abuse of elderly people, that really pains me. It pains society also. In spite of the legislations like Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and Citizens Act 2007, this is a completely unacceptable trend. As a society, we owe the elderly a great debt of gratitude. It is the fruit of their resolve and hard work that we enjoy today, as I explained in my own case. It should be remembered that we are a civilization that has always accorded respect for elderly. We have given the most esteem and also respect to our elders. Even Manusmriti, one of our ancient texts, has this statement: if one serves the elderly with devotion, he or she is blessed with a long life, sound education, fame and strength. We should take inspiration from these noble thoughts from the past and shape societal response to the elderly. Under our traditional joint family system, our elders enjoy a place of reverence. They are the custodians of the ritualness, traditions, family honors, and samskara. The rapid proliferation of the nuclear families coupled with urbanization, intergenerational bonding has weakened. In joint families, children enjoy the tender care, love, affection, patronage, wisdom, and guidance of the older generation. So we must promote and preserve to the extent possible our age-old family system. We should revive the traditional family system and should continue to be a model for other countries. The core of Indian philosophy is share and care. That is the core of Indian philosophy. That is the core value of our Indian civilization. This is a societal responsibility. I am not saying it's not a government. Government is there. Government has to. The government has initiated many schemes like Varishta Pension Bhima Yojana, integrated program for senior citizens, a national program for health care of elderly, apart from giving concessions in income tax and railways, air travel for the welfare of the elderly. Many more things need to be done. Thanks to the improvements in life expectancy, the elderly now live for 17 to 20 years and beyond the age of 60. Many remain professionally active for years after they turn 60 and work full-time or part-time also. We must therefore consider equipping our elderly population with the new age skills so that they can lead fuller professional lives and keep contributing to national building. We must remember that if young are the demographic dividend, I say seniors are demographic bonus for the nation. They are the demographic bonus for the nation. There is an urgent need to reorient our health system to address the specific needs of the elderly by providing medical benefits and ensuring insurance coverage also. On the societal front, apart from relatives, neighbors, local NGOs, and police need to be sensitized and trained to look after the social and emotional needs of the elderly, more so of single women, the differently abled, and those suffering from morbid conditions. There is also a need to develop elderly-friendly public community spaces. The elderly should not be made to stand in queue for a long time. and separate counters should be set up for them in places like banks and other public utilities. I'm happy that you are sensitizing the elected representatives. These elected representatives are supposed to sensitize the society because they are the representatives of the people. I'm sure that this very insightful report will go a long way in highlighting the challenges being faced by our elderly and finding suitable and sustainable solutions to this. I suggest to the media to focus their attention, go through these reports, publish them, so that the society can be consoled better. That is the need of the hour. I personally feel and suggest to the media that both the issues of sex ratio as well as the problems of senior citizens, they need special attention by the media, by the elected representatives, by the governments. But media, if it highlights, then there will be more focus and attention by the other people. India has been grappling with a skewed sex ratio. We find that the number of girl-child born is much less than what is the general or natural norm. We in our country have more than 109 or 110 male babies, as explained, born for every 100 female babies. 2011 census also says 940 females for every 1,000 males. This shows that there is a silent emergency and has serious consequences that will affect the stability of our society. This has to be noted. In spite of strict enforcement of the PCPNDD Act, we come across reports of sex-selective abortions. The only way to end this menace is to create a society that is free from all forms of gender discrimination. There is a need to change the mindset of the people, and this should begin at home. Boys must be made to treat girls with respect and courtesy. The visionary schemes of the government such as Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao and Sukanya Samruddhi Yojana have brought into sharp focus the need to promote and protect the girl child, but a lot more needs to be done. Moral education should be imparted in schools to children so that they grow up to be responsible and sensitive citizens. They become sensitive citizens who view gender discrimination as immoral. Gender discrimination is immoral that way. There must be strict implementation of the laws banning female feticide and dowry while ensuring free and compulsory education for all girl children. Women must be given equal share in the property. There was some Supreme Court judgment also. I say they must be given equal share in public life, in property, in every walk of life, so that once you give them property rights, they will be economically empowered. They will be less prone to exploitation and harassment. This is the reality, we all know. We must also ensure adequate reservation is made for women in parliament and legislature. I am not talking of a particular percentage because the political parties has to sit together, discuss the issue and evolve a consensus and move on. It's really unfortunate that this proposal is pending for long, even in the Indian Parliament. The Rajya Sabha has approved it. The governments of the day and political leadership of the country, they should come, sit together and evolve a consensus and then move on. That is the requirement at the earliest on this important issue. Country's progress will be hampered if women are not properly empowered because they are 50% of our population. Districts with larger imbalance in sex ratio should receive greater attention from the elected representatives. I suggest to my office that these two reports should be sent to all state governments with a letter from our office suggesting to them they should go through the report and take appropriate action at their level. So I have two suggestions. One is the media should focus separate attention on these two issues by way of making further study and then presenting a report. Second is the state governments should focus on the gaps, shortcomings, why it is happening in their state, what are the reasons, what are the steps they have taken and which should be improved further. This is very much required. The Niti Aayog, Women and Child Development and Social Justice Ministry should focus more and more on these two aspects. I appreciate the AIPPD role it plays in the development activities of the country. Studies like this and their recommendations will go a long way, because now the report says India's population is expected to grow to 1.52 billion by 2036. That is 25% when you compare with 2011 census. This is another area of concern, but unfortunately, enough attention is not being paid to this issue of population. Families must plan their population. It's not the government alone. Everybody should think about this issue. As the population size increases, developmental challenges become more and more. It's not that development has not taken place. Various governments have taken various steps. A lot of development in the country. We are now moving ahead, but there are gaps. Even now 20+% are below poverty. 20% are illiterate, and the girl-child number is more. So this situation has to be addressed. And one aspect is, whatever you have, you share it. So you plan the family accordingly. And then move on. The delivery of basic services to reduce poverty is also an important aspect. Prime Minister Narendra Bhai said in his Independence Day speech last year that those who follow the policy of family contribute to the development of nation, and that it is an expression of their love for the nation. Very important statement made. Political parties and people's representatives should focus on this vital issue and educate the people. In our country, population means you remember what happened some time back during emergency. No, we must educate the people. We must make them aware of the consequences. One is general education. The another is social education. And then leaders speaking about such issues time to time. Media focusing its attention through debates, discussions on the television channels. Not on political issues alone. They devote more time to political issues and sometimes create and further more tensions and do not pay enough attention to the other vital issues, unfortunately. So concerted action by all the stakeholders, including the elected representatives, parliamentarians, is very much required. I should suggest that there should be a wider debate on these issues, and the public representatives must focus more. Madam was explaining about number of questions and subject asked by members, area of interest and all. These issues, they are very much important. One is 50% of the population, other is 20% of the population. Proportional concern is not being shown for whatever reason it is. So I suggest that there should be wider discussion and wider dissemination of this information, because this is given after a study, objective study by publicly conscious, socially conscious people. I once again appreciate the group for providing these two research reports, and I suggest people to go through it with all seriousness that is required. Thank you very much. Namaskar. Jai Hind.